Raheem, what are you hearing about this National Security Council meeting? Is it ongoing? Do you know if a decision has been made back or forth regarding this strike on Iran's nuclear facilities?
Yeah, Jack, thanks for having me. I think that the public deserves the truth about everything that's going on in Washington, D.C. at the moment. And rather than a lot of what other people are doing out there, speculating, I think it should be made clear to people that the people in government who are supposed to be out there making things clear to people about what's going on are currently just not talking a lot, right? And you would expect that at a time like this. Critical decisions are being made. People are under immense pressure, working very late hours. And so, sorry, say again.
No, go ahead. You're
Jack?
fine.
Oh, sorry. Um, yeah, and it's hard to know at any given moment what exactly the thought process is. So you have to kind of play a game of well, I hear it's not this, so then what about this? And you're sort of constantly chasing little nuggets of information to create a bigger picture of the conversations taking place inside. I've been doing that now for the last, I don't know, 48 hours, really talking to as many people as I can. And as of last night, the conversations that were being had were not, hey, are we going to enter the war in the next 24 hours? But hey, are we going to let Israel use, a bunker buster bomb to attack Iran's nuclear facilities? Are we going to allow them to assassinate the Ayatollah as the next step up in this? And as of last night and as of this morning, the latest information I was getting was that they are still pursuing diplomatic ends. This is not a situation, as I hear it, that they are currently handing this over to the Pentagon and DOD. No, the conversation remains at the State Department and White House levels, and I expect it to do so for at least the next 12 hours.
And I want to throw up as you go through that, Raheem, we've got a map prepared of all of sort of the U.S. assets in the region as well as the Iranian assets. The Persian Gulf is a very small place. And I think a lot of people don't always realize that. And so just as you go and break this down, I want people to realize what we're talking about. And yes, we do currently have a lot of Americans that are easily within range of Iran's response, whatever that retaliation may be. And I just want people to be aware of that as more assets are now being brought into the region. We're told the USS Nimitz, the Carrier Strike Group, and of course, these U.S. assets do certainly have the ability to defend themselves as well. Raheem, please go ahead.
Yeah, look, Jack, somebody said to me last night that if this is a negotiating tactic or a bluff, then it is one of the most expensive ways to do it possible. Well, that may be true, but there's something that's even more costly at stake, and that's a full-blown war. I was surprised when some data came out today from a snap poll conducted by a pollster that I highly recommend and highly rate, the Democracy Institute, run by a friend of mine, actually, Patrick Basham. And his numbers showed that a significant majority of Americans oppose a full-blown war, including ground troops with Iran. But I was surprised by the number of people that said yes at the same time. 1 in 3, or just over 1 in 3, 35% of all Americans using this data say that they would support such a thing. I thought that number would be more of around 10 to 15%. But it sort of shows you what we're up against as some people want to beat the drum for war over the next 24 hours. We may be closer in terms of public opinion, at least, than some people might think. And I'm not taking any glee in that. I think that's appalling. I think that is something that should be avoided at all costs. But I don't want people to get reticent here and think that because President Trump's instincts are peaceful, that hasn't led to bad decisions being made in the past. It has, and we need to oppose it again.
And so, Raheem, we're seeing these truths and that from President Trump, and this, of course, could play into sort of what you're saying that this ratcheting up. We're seeing the U.S. air-to-air refuelers, the KC-135s now headed from Europe over to the Middle East. We're seeing the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, so providing various options. In a strike like this, people should expect to see, by the way, when we're talking about bunker busters, that's not something that a fighter can shoot off itself. You would need a B-2 bomber flying probably from Diego Garcia, which is in the southern Indian Ocean, but certainly within range. And then you would have fighters providing escort for those bombers, which don't really have the ability to defend themselves. The same idea, that's how the carrier strike groups work. That's why an aircraft carrier is always traveling contingent with a couple of submarines, cruisers, and those Arleigh Burke destroyers as well to provide an air screen, because an aircraft carrier by itself is essentially a sitting duck. It's just a floating airport. But when the fighters go up, et cetera, that's what provides the screen, are the rest of those ships. And so, Raheem, these truths, unconditional surrender, implying that we know where the Ayatollah is, but we have not decided to kill him yet. We control the skies over Iran, Tehran. How should Americans looking at this, and Trump supporters looking at this, read all of the things that they're seeing right now?
Yeah, look, I would be lying to you if I said that I felt totally secure enough in President Trump's sort of peacenik creds that I didn't think there was any chance of this escalating further. The problem is this is what's still Washington, D.C. at the end of the day. And while the swamp has been somewhat neutered, it has not been completely drained. And that is, a generational task. I think most people recognize at this point. You have to know that there are really, really awful voices in the president's ear, trying to push for full blown war. Right? I'm not talking about just a couple of B2s at this point. I mean, we're talking boots on the ground, regime change, democracy building, all of that stuff. And I say especially to the generation after us, Jack. I hear from people all the time, young people all the time, about how they look up to you. And how they've followed you for so long, and I have to tell your audience, especially of a younger age, this. Jack, you and I lived through those forever wars, and they just ended, about last year, in fact, or the year before, and with a terrible whimper at the organization of Joe Biden. There is nothing worse you could do for the next 20 years of your life than support this drumbeat for war. Nothing could derail the world more. Nothing could derail your futures more than letting malign actors drive you into another foreign incursion.